Hey everyone, so today we are working on text features, and this should hopefully be a review for everyone, which is why you're not going to be required to take any notes. You're just going through this video that I've created, and then there's a PowerPoint for a review if you need to look back at it at any time. So when we look through text features, we just want to be able to identify them and to know how they help in our comprehending of a text. So our first two text features that we will look at are title and title of publication. Now the title, this is the name of the work that you're going to be reading. And when you look here, you expect to be reading about Narnia when you see a title like this. If it's not about Narnia, you're going to be confused. Why did they title it this? Same thing with Inside the Great White. That's their title of a particular article within this magazine, and you're going to ask why. If it's not about great white sharks, why do they title it this? Now with title of publication, this is the name of the magazine or the newspaper that you're going to be reading. So in this case, it's National Geographic. And then if you were to reference the source here, that will be the source material will be National Geographic, and then the title within that source is Great White. Moving on, headings and titles are very similar. A heading is a line of text serving to organize and indicate what the passage below is about. Sometimes you won't have headings. Sometimes you will have headings. It just depends. And then within that, subheadings are very similar as well, because this is an additional headline or title that comes after the main heading. So a title given to one of the parts of divisions of a piece of writing. So here we have our title, She Lived on Mars. And then I would say that this is our heading, The Fascinating Life of an Analog Astronaut. And then you have these subheadings, questions to answer. So I would assume that there's going to be questions to answer about this person here, safe and successful. So I would expect that somewhere in there, since she's doing a mission, an analog astronaut, that I would assume it would go into details about how it was successful and how she ended up being safe. Moving on, bold and italics are probably the ones that we use more than any other type of text feature. This is to highlight the text and capture the reader's attention, make key information stand out. We use this all the time. Moving into maps. Maps will tell us where things are located. Just understanding that if you're in Virginia, which is right here, it's 3,000 miles away to get to Los Angeles. That's a long distance to travel. If people don't understand how long the distance that is. But for example, back in some 2016 range, 2015 range, maybe 2017, Chipotle had an E. coli outbreak in California where that's a food poisoning, right? And there was a lot of it here, and you were like, oh God, that's terrible that happened to those people. But as a Virginian living in Chesapeake, I'm like, well, that doesn't really affect me directly. I'm still going to eat Chipotle because it's this one way over here. It's 3,000 miles. But a little while after that, one happened up in Fairfax, another E. coli outbreak, and you're like, well, that's way closer. That's roughly a couple hundred miles. So now I am a little nervous about eating at Chipotle. So it's a proximity thing, but it's also just kind of understanding where things are. Diagrams are a drawing intended to explain how something works, a drawing showing the relation between the parts. So here we have a diagram here breaking down every single thing to do with a bat's body. And then you have photographs, which will just kind of give you a better idea of what certain things look like. So these are all things that you can find within graphics. Pictures that are the images that accompany a piece of text to enhance its meaning. So these are just ways to better understand where bats are and what they look like in our country. And then here you have your subheading, a mysterious disease. So moving forward, and each one of these has a title. So moving forward though, annotations, right? Written notes that show you are engaged in thinking about the text to add notes or comments. We really need to start making more annotations as we are reading. We did kind of start this week with our text features, making our notes and highlighting as we are reading, but it's so helpful to make these annotations as you are reading through a text. Moving forward from that, we have footnotes. Footnotes come at the bottom of a page. So say something in this passage was bolded, which you have it bolded right here, Raza style. Down at the bottom there's usually a number that comes after it, right here, Raza style, and then the number 1. And you come down here, and number 1 explains to you Spanish gestures of greeting between friends, right? Essay, number 2. Spanish word for man. So usually what a footnote will do is it will have a number after it, and then at the bottom of the page it will explain additional information about that in case they're worried that you might not know exactly what that is. Here you have an example of bold, underline, or italicized words, and then over here it's actually defined for you. Sidebar is as you're reading through a passage about bats here and you want to have a little bit extra information on it, it gives you information like, oh, here we're saying that bats might need help in some way, shape, or form, and then down over here it's actually giving you information on how you can go about helping those bats. A note about sidebars is they are not necessary to understanding the text overall. They're something that can be skipped, but they are not, sometimes really nice and extra information that sometimes we find interesting. Index, of course, is a topics of importance listed in alphabetical order. It lists the page number the term is found on. So everything that the author deemed to be important, or probably the publisher deemed to be important, is going to be put into the index, and it's going to be given a page number on where it should be found. Also, the index is going to be in alphabetical order, but you notice it's just the page numbers that you can find these words. So if I'm looking for Michael Agee, I could go to page 223 to 224. If I'm looking for Kenneth Arrow, I can go to page 232. Now, captions. So I'm going to go right into glossary before I go into captions. Captions is similar to an index. This is an alphabetical list of terms with the definitions for those terms. It usually appears at the end of the book. Now, with the glossary, it should happen before the index. And with the glossary, unlike the index, everything is going to be defined. So here you have like an example of a glossary: plantation, raid, descendant, and you see that those are defined. Now, actually, I don't know if I would necessarily call this a traditional glossary, though, because with a glossary, you should have words defined for you. Captions are words underneath a map or a picture or a photograph or whatever. You would put captions like Harriet Tubman. It's somewhere like just labeling beside on photographs. It's labeling those charts. It's labeling those photographs. It's labeling those graphs or those pictures. All right. And then here we have all of our text features in one picture. So you can kind of just see how here's a subtitle, there's a caption, there's a title, these are headings. I mean, the headings and subheadings are super similar. I don't see them ever asking you a heading or subheading question. Here's a diagram. Now, the only thing we didn't talk about but should be explained is the table of contents. And the table of contents generally comes at the beginning of the book. And it's similar to a glossary and similar to an index. And it just helps you find the important things within the book. But it's at the front. So that's usually going to be your chapters or your headings are all going to be found there. And you just, oh, I'm looking for a heading about, like, so this is the big bite. So I'm assuming these are about animals that have bites. So maybe in the table of contents, you would have something along the lines of, big cats, reptiles, spiders, sharks. And so let's say I wanted to go to the section with labeled spiders, or I would look for those page numbers and I would go to that section. That's kind of just what it would be. So there's going to be a practice that comes after this that you will work on with a partner. But for now, this is it for text features. Okay, everyone, have a good one.